In this world, some roads aren't just paths. They're a battle between humans and nature. There are places clinging to vertical cliffs where one wrong turn means a deep abyss is waiting below. There are places cutting through white snow and ice, where just a few minutes of losing visibility is enough to make everything disappear. And there are sea-crossing routes where the tide suddenly rushes over the road and sweeps everything away. For many people, just looking is scary enough. But in many parts of the world, drivers still have to go through them every day to deliver goods, carry passengers, and keep life moving. What makes them willing to gamble with their lives? How much skill and nerves of steel do they need to drive through these roads? Buckle up and join us as we explore the most dangerous roads in the world. Dao Bei Liang Road, China. Dao Bei Liang is one of the scariest roads in Chongqing, China. Running along the top of Seven Wonders Mountain at an altitude of over 1,500 meters, this road clings to a strip of land so narrow that from a distance it looks like the spine of a knife blade hanging in the sky. Both sides are steep drops. There are sections only wide enough for one car to roll through, with absolutely no guardrails. On days when the fog rolls in, visibility is almost swallowed up. Strong winds constantly sweep across the ridge, enough to make high-clearance vehicles wobble. But despite all that, Dao Bei Liang is still the vital path for tens of thousands of people in isolated villages. In this place, every trip isn't just about moving. It's a test of calmness, skill, and grit. Killar Cliff Road, India. Hidden among the steep cliffs of the Himalayas, the Killar route in India is a place where even the toughest drivers hesitate. At an altitude of over 2,500 meters, this road was hand-carved through the mountain rock. On one side is a massive cliff hanging over your head. On the other is a drop-off of hundreds of meters straight down to the violent Chenab River below. Many sections are only wide enough for one car to squeeze through, with no railings, no space, and no second chances. The road surface is full of rocks and mud, and is often hit by waterfalls from above, turning every meter forward into a gamble. Just one slip of a tire or one wrong judgment, and everything could end right there. But for the locals, this isn't a reckless choice. It's the only road to bring food, medicine, and life from the outside world into this isolated mountain region. In Killar, fear isn't what makes people give up. It's the only thing they have to learn to overcome. Shimshal Valley Road, Pakistan. It took 18 years of carving entirely by hand for local people to open the road through the Shimshal Valley in the rugged Karakoram range of Pakistan. Running 50 kilometers along steep cliffs at an altitude of over 3,000 meters, this road is like a thin thread cut by deep canyons and eternal glaciers. The road is extremely narrow, with many parts only wide enough for 4 wheels to pass, the outer tires just centimeters from the edge of the abyss. If you face another car, one of you has to back up to give way. With loose geology, this area is always prone to sudden rock slides and mudslides. After a heavy rain, the road can be completely wiped out. When winter comes with temperatures below -20 degrees Celsius, frozen waterfalls turn the road into deadly slides. Traveling through Shimshal is a fair bet with fate. However, this road is still the only lifeline bringing food and medicine to the Hunza community in the middle of the lonely grey rocks. Guangxing Cliff Road, China. In the middle of the jagged limestone mountains of Guizhou, the Guangxing Cliff Road makes many people feel like they're driving through mid-air. This 160-kilometer route is a massive network of viaducts connecting steep peaks with pillars hundreds of meters high. The most breathtaking highlight is the Beipanjiang Bridge, where the road sits at a height of 366 meters, equal to a 120-story building. The bridge stretches across 2 steep cliffs, hanging over the deep abyss below. On foggy days, visibility is blocked and you'll feel like you're heading straight into a void. Meanwhile, the sound of the wind whistling through the cables echoes through the canyon like sounds from deep underground. Despite the creepiness, Guangxing still has a strong pull, pushing adventurous hearts to come and experience it. Between the cold grey of the limestone and the deep green of the forest, you'll realize how small you are, but also how proud you are to conquer the most remote and lonely lands. Abra de la Acay, Argentina. It's called the Road to Heaven, but for many long-distance drivers, Abra del Acay is more like hell. At an altitude of nearly 4,895 meters, the thin air, biting cold, and freezing winds make just staying alert behind the wheel a challenge. With a slope of up to 4.5% and hair-raising narrow turns, this road has absolutely no guardrails. Every meter of movement is a tense mental battle between bravery and fear. Just a small mistake or a wrong gear shift, and the deep abyss is always ready to swallow you up. As brutal as it is, Abra del Acay still serves as a vital, irreplaceable lifeline connecting the Calchaquí Valley with the remote Puna Highlands. Behind the danger, Abra del Acay possesses a raw, stunning beauty with multicolored mountain ranges and images of llamas wandering in the cold wind, a scene that only those who dare to step here can enjoy. Beni-Jomsom Pass Road, Nepal. In Nepal, the Beni-Jomsom Pass Road runs along the Gandaki Canyon, the deepest on the planet, like a thin strip of rock between two giant mountains in the Himalayas. On one side is Annapurna, on the other is Dhaulagiri, both over 8,000 meters high and always ready to swallow any vehicle. The road is 75 kilometers long, but only wide enough for one lane, and it has to endure waterfalls pouring straight down from the mountain peaks. Muddy bogs appear all over the road. The risk of landslides can completely isolate the route for many days. At sharp hairpin turns, the Gandaki River roars violently below, ready to punish any mistake. Every day, there are still vehicles risking their lives to cross this road. This is the only transport route to carry food, medicine, and pilgrims to the sacred Muktinath temple. Combe Laval Road, France. Driving on the Combe Laval Road in France is like a risky circus performance in the sky because the abyss is right next to you. Located at an altitude of over 1,000 meters, this roughly 13-kilometer route was carved directly into the limestone cliffs of the Vercors Mountains. On one side is a vertical cliff, and on the other is a drop of hundreds of meters. Protecting you is only a thin stone barrier. The route is so narrow that two cars can hardly pass each other at sharp bends, forcing drivers to concentrate intensely. Overhanging cliffs create a half-tunnel structure above. There are short, dark tunnel sections mixed with open rock windows that make light and shadow change suddenly, putting heavy psychological pressure on anyone afraid of heights. If you have the chance to visit France, would you want to try this mesmerizing visual experience of driving between the blue sky and the abyss? Halsema Highway, Philippines. Located along the central mountain ridges of Luzon Island, the Halsema Highway isn't a road for a leisurely trip, but a death trap that challenges all limits. At a peak altitude of over 2,255 meters in the town of Acay, you're not just driving on the Cordillera Range. You're actually balancing on a thin string between the clouds and the abyss. The Halsema road surface is a terrible nightmare with muddy bogs, the result of horrific landslides. The sharp turns here are deadly traps, with no guardrails at all and visibility wiped out by thick fog. It's dangerous, but Halsema is still the only lifeline transporting food for the entire Luzon region, where drivers must gamble their lives to keep life moving. Every trip through here requires not just a cool head, but also expert driving skills to survive the brutal anger that the Philippine nature is always ready to pour down. Tsugaru Iwaki Skyline Pass, Japan. With a record number of hairpin turns on a stretch of only 10 kilometers, the Tsugaru Iwaki Skyline is the most physically and mentally draining pass in Japan. The road clings tightly to the slope of Mount Iwaki, reaching an altitude of 1,247 meters with a density of turns that is almost unbelievable. With 69 deadly turns stacked on top of each other like a giant spring, on average, every 140 meters, you have to turn the wheel in extreme tension. Drivers here have no concept of rest, as their hands must grip the steering wheel constantly, because just a second of distraction and the road will throw you off track. Despite the dizzying, nauseating feeling, this is still a mandatory journey for those who crave conquest in exchange for a stunning view of the entire Tsugaru Peninsula. If you're confident in your guts and skills, come here to face the challenge of turning the wheel 69 times in a row. Zuluk Loops Pass, India. Once part of the ancient Silk Road, the Zuluk Loops in India today is a deadly maze with over 32 consecutive hairpin turns at an altitude of 3,000 meters. On an extremely short distance, the loops stack on each other so tightly that the margin of error is measured in millimeters. The road is suffocatingly narrow, the slope is steep, and thick fog hides the view, turning this into a real test of courage. The bottomless abyss is always waiting to swallow those who slip up behind the fog. In winter, temperatures drop to -10 to -15 degrees Celsius, turning all 32 deadly loops into slippery ice strips that challenge every driver. Even so, Zuluk is considered a cathedral for those who thirst for freedom. From the top of the pass, you can see the Kanchenjunga peak glowing in the sea of clouds. Successfully conquering this stone dragon, you will touch the most heroic beauty of the majestic Himalayas. Pamir Highway, M41, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. Known as the road on the roof of the world, the Pamir Highway, M41, at an altitude of over 4,600 meters, makes any driver grip the wheel tight. This lonely strip of asphalt and gravel is over 1,200 kilometers long, connecting Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan in a place where the sky seems to hang right above the ground. Here, winter temperatures can crush any will when they hit -40 degrees Celsius. The road surface turns into eternal ice blocks, making cars freeze in the middle of nowhere. Rock slides, mudslides, and sections of the road eroded by melting ice can wipe out your journey at any time. Along deep canyons with no guardrails, just one slip of a tire, and the fierce Panj River will swallow both car and driver without a trace. Overcoming the harshness, Pamir is a magnet for souls craving absolute freedom. Conquering the breathtaking high passes, you will be rewarded with the magnificent beauty of blue lakes and snow-capped peaks stretching to infinity. Calobra Road, MA-2141, Spain. Located on the island of Mallorca in Spain, the Calobra Road, MA-2141, winds like a soft ribbon thrown among the sharp limestone cliffs of the Sierra de Tramuntana range. At an altitude of about 700 meters, engineers refuse to use tunnels to create a spectacular zigzag journey with an average slope of 7%, challenging every limit of vision. Calobra has a crazy design with dozens of hairpin turns, especially the tie knot, Nus de Calobra, where the road loops 360 degrees under itself. In a narrow space, right at the edge, there is no room for a small mistake when going down. Huge buses snaking on the narrow road create heart-pounding face-offs in the middle of the sky. Despite the fear, Calobra is still a burning dream for the world's bravest racers who want to conquer deadly turns. At the end of the journey, the blue Mediterranean water appearing between two steep cliffs is a priceless reward for the hearts of steel that dare to face the challenge. Khau Pass, Vietnam. Known as the Stairway to Heaven of Northeast Vietnam, Khau Koc Cha is one of the most rugged passes, challenging every driver when they set foot in Khau. Though it's only 2.5 kilometers long, this pass has 15 zigzag levels stacked on top of each other. Every turn of the wheel becomes a gamble with your life. On one side is a towering limestone cliff, and on the other is an abyss with no guardrails, with a brutal slope of 10% to 12%, just a second of distraction, and the deep abyss below is always ready to swallow everything. Under fog that chokes the view, the 15 levels turn into a deadly maze. Here, driving skills alone aren't enough. You need nerves of steel to not be defeated by nature's threats. After a short trek to the top, you'll be overwhelmed as the 15 levels appear heroically in the middle of the wild forest. That is a priceless reward for travelers who dare to conquer the edge of danger to touch the rawest beauty of Vietnam's borderland. Lysebotn Pass Road, Norway. For those who see driving as an extreme art form, Lysebotn Road is the cathedral that cannot be missed in the cold Nordic land. This journey takes you from a height of nearly 900 meters straight down to sea level through a maze of 27 breathtaking hairpin turns. The road is extremely narrow. Strong winds from the Lysefjord blow in constantly. Every turn becomes a tense battle between life and death. The most terrifying part is the 1.1 kilometer spiral tunnel inside the cliff. The dim light and tight space choke your vision, making you fall into a dangerous state of disorientation. Scary as it is, Lysebotn is a heaven for souls who love the Nordic wilderness. From the top, the beauty of Lysefjord, with its deep blue water between two cliffs, is stunning. This is when you get to enjoy a moment of absolute freedom in Norway's great nature. Gorge Road, Morocco. Like a sharp cut into the red rock at an altitude of 1,600 meters, Dades Gorge, R704, Morocco is proof of human boldness when facing the majestic Atlas Mountains. This road is a crazy series of spirals with turns so sharp that even the bravest drivers have to question their limits. The terrain here is a cruel test, as the road narrows to only about 5 meters, tucked between strange, human-brain limestone blocks. The scorching desert air, up to 40 degrees Celsius, and dry sand, blowing in blurs your alertness. Driving becomes a real physical struggle. Just one moment of carelessness at the exposed edge, and the mountain rocks and desert will immediately end the journey for foolish travelers. Even if it's called crazy, the existence of Dade's Gorge has broken the isolation of the Berber villages. Without these resilient loops, the life of residents in the deep canyon would be completely cut off by harsh rocks and the desert. Passo di Gavia, Italy. Deep in the majestic Alps, Passo di Gavia is not for dreamers. It is one of the most brutal roads in Europe, with a peak reaching 2,621 meters. Gavia is a wild monster full of traps. The road sometimes narrows to only 2.5 meters, just enough for a single car to squeeze between the cliff and the abyss. The asphalt surface is degraded, while thick fog often hides the view to less than 5 meters. The eternal abyss of the Lombardy region is ready to swallow any creature that dares to cross. Winter in Gavia is a white nightmare with snow over 4 meters thick, turning the road into a completely blocked death zone. Every centimeter you move on this road, you have to face the biting cold and extreme psychological pressure. Harsh as it is, Gavia still holds an important historical role in the world's most prestigious cycling races. It is where hearts of steel come to touch the peak of the Alps and prove the power of human will. Los Libertadores Paz, Argentina y Chile. Described as a giant, spiral dance carved into the side of the Andes, Paso Los Libertadores is a dramatic trade gateway at 3,200 meters connecting Argentina and Chile. The classic highlight here is the Los Caracoles, snail shell road with nearly 30 consecutive hairpin turns, stacked like stairs, leading straight into the South American clouds. The real danger appears in winter, when the road is covered by slippery ice and temperatures hit -20 degrees Celsius. In the thin, suffocating air, giant trucks have to crawl meter by meter between the mountain rocks. A small mistake in speed control or a mistimed brake on the ice will mean you and your vehicle don't get a second chance to come back here. Every year, millions of tons of goods between two oceans are still transported through here. Libertadores is not just a challenge for thrill-seeking drivers, but a symbol of cross-continental connection in the Western Hemisphere. Holy Island Causeway, England. Holy Island Causeway in England is one of the weirdest and most unpredictable roads in the world. This roughly 4.8-kilometer road disappears periodically twice a day. When the tide from the North Sea rises, the entire road is swallowed completely under the freezing water. The water rises so fast it can surround and submerge a car in just a few short minutes. The road then turns into a vast water trap with underwater currents. Your vehicle will immediately become bait for the ocean. Despite clear tide schedules, many tourists still pay a heavy price for being reckless. Countless people have had to leave their property, run, and climb onto rescue huts along the road to save their lives. Opened in 1954, Holy Island Causeway is the only umbilical cord connecting residents and tourists with an important religious and historical center. To conquer Holy Island Causeway, you must learn to listen to the breath of the tide in the rhythm of the ocean. Sach Pass, India. Known as the Gate to Hell, or Land of Ghosts, Sach Pass is one of the most terrifying roads in the Himalayas at a towering 4,420 meters. There is no asphalt. Sach Pass is actually just a steep, rocky and slippery strip cutting through the wild Chamba region. The road is always soaked and muddy due to waterfalls pouring directly from melting glaciers right over the drivers' heads. Rock slides can happen at any time. With record snowfall, this pass is often frozen, and only opens for just 4 months a year, turning every trip into a gamble with fate. Before this road existed, locals had to spend weeks traveling across snowy mountains. Now, this road is a lifesaver, helping transport food, medicine, and connecting the mountain community with the modern world. Grossglockner High Alpine Road, Austria. Like a giant python gripping the Alpine peaks, the Grossglockner High Alpine Road will lure you into the heart of Hohe-Tauern National Park. Here, you have to survive a journey on breathtaking roads at an altitude of 2,504 meters. This route is a harsh journey through climate zones. You'll see the change from lush temperate forests to the eternal frozen tundra at the foot of Grossglockner Peak. "36 hairpin turns are finely designed on a steep terrain. Even in the middle of summer, snowstorms can hit suddenly, wiping out visibility and turning the road into slippery ice traps. Inaugurated in 1935, Grossglockner plays an important role in boosting tourism and the economy of the Salzburg and Carinthia regions. Dangerous as it is, this place still attracts millions of tourists every year. The beauty of sparkling glaciers and sharp peaks piercing the clouds will make the fear in your heart completely disappear. Duku Highway, China. Known as the Road of Blood and Tears, the Duku Highway cuts straight through the heart of the majestic Tian Shan Range, where death always hides behind steep cliffs at an altitude of over 3,000 meters. With a length of 561 kilometers, the road is a walk on the Grim Reaper's scythe, connecting northern and southern Xinjiang through the most brutal geological regions on the planet. Duku sits on rugged terrain with more than 280 kilometers at a height of thousands of feet, where cliffs have a nearly 90-degree slope. With a high density of rock slides and geological sinkholes, this route is completely blocked for up to 8 months a year to avoid tragic accidents. Crossing Duku, you'll face the phenomenon of 4 seasons in one day. A sudden snowstorm can hit right in the middle of summer, freezing the road immediately. Today, Duku is a strategic tourism lifeline, bringing millions of visitors to the border region and helping revive the economy for nomadic tribes along the Tian Shan Range. Pico del Veleta Road, Spain. Reaching for the sky in the Andalusia region, Pico del Veleta is not for the faint of heart, as it holds the record for being the highest paved road in Europe, with a peak hitting 3,396 meters. This is a grim challenge leading straight into the death zone of the Sierra Nevada range. Here, oxygen gets thin, and the scenery changes from the green of the valley to the cold gray of eternal boulders. Pico del Veleta has creepy hairpin turns, winding right at the edge of the abyss without guardrails. At this breathtaking height, strong gusts of wind from the Mediterranean can wobble even the steadiest drivers. Driving here requires absolute focus, because just a moment of distraction while facing low pressure, and both machine and human will go into overload. Today, Pico del Veleta is considered a giant high-altitude laboratory for car companies to test engines in extreme conditions and a sanctuary for cyclists who want to test the limits of their lungs. Donghai Bridge, China. Standing tall in the middle of a volatile sea, the Donghai Bridge is one of the longest sea-crossing bridges in the world, connecting central Shanghai with Yangshan Port. The bridge is like a concrete dragon winding over the waves, bringing you into a grim challenge for 32.5 kilometers in the middle of the vast ocean. Here, the biggest enemy for drivers is the horrific gusts of wind that often exceed level 10, strong enough to lift or flip the heaviest trucks. Visibility on the bridge is often swallowed by thick salt fog and violent tropical storms. Keeping a steady hand on the wheel on the bridge high above sea level becomes a battle for survival against swirling winds. Driving on the Donghai Bridge is an indescribable, overwhelming feeling. You'll feel how small humans are in the middle of the vast water. At the same time, it's a sense of intense pride to glide over a technical miracle, reaching out to the horizon. Furka Pass, Switzerland. Once the setting for breathtaking chases in the James Bond movie, Goldfinger Furka Pass is the embodiment of deadly luxury in the Alps with a peak of 2,429 meters. Under a mesmerizing appearance with snow-capped peaks connecting the two cantons of Uri and Valais, Furka is actually a brutal playground. Sections of the road are extremely narrow and sit right at the edge of a bottomless abyss, where the hairpin turn system constantly demands steering that is precise to the millimeter. Thin air reduces engine power, while thick fog from the valleys can suddenly hide the view. The road is often wet from melting ice from the Rhone Glacier, turning sharp turns into slippery traps ready to throw inexperienced drivers into the abyss. Driving on Furka is a journey that sparks the ultimate thirst for conquest, pushing speed lovers to come back and carve their names on one of the most legendary roads in the world. U-shaped highway G315, China. Cutting across the brutal Qaidam Desert for over 3,000 kilometers, the U-shaped slope on Highway G315 is a spectacular visual trap at 2,800 meters. Without complicated winding, the road plunges straight down into a basin, then shoots back up into the blue sky with a horrific slope, creating a magical asphalt ribbon sandwiched between rolling sand dunes. When shooting up a sudden slope, you'll fall into a state of temporary blindness due to the sharp change in angle, making judging obstacles ahead a game of chance. Wind gusts from the desert and road surface temperatures that often hit 50 degrees Celsius create mirages, turning the road into mirrors, breaking focus, and causing steering errors in the desert. Dangerous as it is, G315 is a strategic main artery, helping transport millions of tons of minerals and oil from the basins to the outside. It's also a symbol of human will in connecting deadlands, turning the parched desert into one of the busiest economic corridors in Western China. We just went through 25 routes, which are also 25 heart-pounding face-offs between the iron will of humans and the brutal power of nature. Even though they are dangerous in different ways, every meter of road exists to remind us that barriers are born to be broken. If your heart is pounding at the greatness of the passes or the turns, that is when your instinct to conquer is waking up. Are you ready to hit the gas to face your own limits? Share with us the deadly road that you crave to conquer the most.